Hello, and thanks for accessing this next installment in the series that we call I'm Curious About. In this conversation, we talk with Pastor Jonathan Barker of Grace Lutheran in Kenosha about the ways that care for creation has helped him and his congregation blur the lines between church and community. He shares some inspiring stories about community projects and partners and all the people that have come around these various projects they've worked on and the ways that has reinvigorated Grace's own sense of mission. It's a fantastic conversation. There are discussion questions at the end of this video for you to use this video either for personal discernment or for work with a team at your congregation. So we encourage you to use that. Check out milwaukeesynod.org/curious for series videos from other topics that we've had, and also plan on joining us on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 6:30. You can find information to register for the Zoom link there at milwaukeesynod.org/curious. So we hope you enjoy this conversation and are inspired to find out the ways your congregation can blur the line between church and community as you engage other community partners to seek the good of the community in which you're rooted.
Well, welcome everyone for our discussion this evening with the Reverend Jonathan Barker. I am Pastor Sarah Stobie. I'm the pastor at Bayshore Lutheran in Whitefish Bay, and I'm also a member of the mission table for the Greater Milwaukee Synod. And the mission table, we're just glad to have you all join us. So tonight we're welcoming the Reverend Jonathan Barker. Pastor Jonathan serves as the pastor at Grace Lutheran Church in Kenosha. Pastor Jonathan wrote, "Jesus would demand a Green New Deal. The story of one Christian pastor went on a 12-day fast for a Green New Deal." Thank you for holding it up. In 2021, Pastor Jonathan led a group of 6 others fasting for 22 days for climate justice in the Wisconsin state budget. And this Friday, Pastor Jonathan will complete his 166th Friday of fasting. Say that fast. Friday of fasting, and also praying for our climate. So thank you for sharing that with us. We invited Pastor Jonathan here with us tonight to share how his congregation has found great new energy and purpose in their engagement with community partners around issues related to the care for creation. And we will spend about 30 minutes of time here engaged in conversation with Pastor Jonathan, and then our video portion of our podcast will end, and then those who are present, we will then have time, whether that's in breakout sessions or not, but we will have time together to talk in small groups for further discussion. And then after that, we'll come back together as a whole and we'll talk just a little bit more. So to begin, Pastor Jonathan, as we talk about caring for creation and how our communities of faith can be engaged in this special mission, would you please tell us what you've been working on and developing at your ministry site, Grace Lutheran in Kenosha? And I understand you have 3 ways currently that you are doing so with your congregation.
Well, thank you so much, Pastor Sarah. Thank you so much all for having me. It's a real privilege to be with you all this evening. And as we get started, I'd love to share a prayer that there's now 200 Lutherans, many at our church, praying every morning together. And so I thought as we could start with this. So we call this the mustard seed prayer at my congregation. We have a group that's been praying this since my last 12-day time of praying and fasting. And so if you'll join me, and we prayed this on Sunday together for Earth Sunday as well. So please join your hearts with me in prayer. O Creator of the universe, let our leaders take bold action to protect our common home from the climate emergency. Let each one of their actions be guided by love for neighbor, love for creature, and love for all of your creation. And let me be a mustard seed today. In both small and big action, let what I do today multiply, so our common home is protected for all creatures. Amen. And like I said, we've got 200 Lutherans, not just in our synod at our church, but throughout the United States, praying this with us every morning. If anybody's interested, you can rip it off of my Facebook or Twitter account, and maybe we can have I don't know if there's ever emails that go out after these things with links, but maybe we could have a link. Care for Creation has become a vital part of our mission at Grace, which is really exciting, Grace Lutheran here in Kenosha. And we have seen all sorts of restoration through Care for Creation. So the first thing I want to talk about is our partnership with an urban garden. So Grace is located in a community deeply impacted by poverty. The median household income in our neighborhood is $18,000. So I always like to encourage people to think about what it would be like to live on that. For many people that are not in our neighborhood, that can seem like a really small amount. It can be kind of almost unfathomable. And part of what that means is there's a lot of empty lots and abandoned lots, and lots that are full of trash. And one of the heartbreaking things is having neighbors say, in the middle of the night, I see trucks pull up and dump chemicals and other things into these lots where kids play. And it's, just a cringeworthy example of environmental racism that certain people think they can just dump their literal waste and toxins in our neighborhood. But there are people reclaiming these lots, cleaning them up. And one of the organization that does this is called Garden of Eden. And there's a lot that's 2 blocks from our church. And we've had a partnership with them for many years. Grace has a big food pantry. I say sometimes we're a growing small congregation with a huge food pantry connected. So today we had about 160 families come and get food at our church. This garden called Garden of Eden grows produce in these lots that have been reclaimed and shares the food with us. I believe Pastor Matt has a picture of a child volunteer, which is really cool. We have families that come volunteer at our pantry, a child passing some of this produce out. So here we go. So this is one of our neighbors. And we just love this family. They've been part of our ministry for a long time now. And Barack is passing out a bag of produce that was grown at the Garden of Eden. And so it's a beautiful connection point between caring for a place that was a literal dumping ground, turning it into something that's been restored. It's not just been, the resurrection is not just about going back to how things used to be. It's about the fact that things are even better, right? The new creation is better than the old. It's not just restored, it's more glorified. And a couple years ago, through this connection, Spirit Alive Lutheran Church, and we're so grateful Pastor Kevin's with us, their church adopted that plot. And they really started sprucing things up. And so I'll have Pastor Matt, I've got another picture from the blessing of when they got this plot all taken care of. And so you can see this plot that's now got a gazebo watering thing in the middle. It's got benches, it's beautified. It's got these little boxes with food and books for the community. You can see the planters in the background. And on this day, we were actually blessing the mural in the background. And the family across the street, their daughter actually inspired us. And she's the one with yellow wings and a purple face in the background. But their family, she inspired us to do the pantry. So she used to go to her grandma's pantry and take food out and feed the kids. She'd heard the story of the young boy bringing the fish and the loaves at Sunday school. And unfortunately, she was tragically killed in a car crash. But her family continued her work, and we actually got to hear about it at Grace and what she was doing. And then we wanted to continue her work. And lo and behold, truthfully, Naomi, who thought she could feed the whole neighborhood, literally last year led to 15,000 people being fed, which is pretty awesome. And so there's a beautiful testimony to her. Lincoln Middle School, a public school, painted that mural. And so we have this beautiful connection of transforming this creation, having different partners come in and be part of it, having new relationships. And it's just been an awesome thing to be part of. So we're just so grateful for that way of reclaiming a small part of God's creation and uplifting it and being part of this community that uplifts it. The other area that we're really excited about transforming has been our own church grounds. And for a long time, and maybe as some of you will relate to, the church grounds are maybe one of the hardest things to change, one of the most scary things to change, right? And for a long time, even when we started our pantry, for instance, there was concern, are we going to kill the grass? Is there going to be divots in the lawn? How is that going to impact the lawn care and the beauty of our church? And so there tended to be a lot of fear around this space. Well, we had a new member take over the what used to be just called the beautification team, and she turned it into the care for creation team. And now she kind of turned it into the restoring prairie team. And she has been doing all this wonderful work in maintaining our space in a new way, thinking about a lot of different questions. So one of the questions she's thinking about is how she can get insects back in. So it used to be all show plants. It used to be all hybrid plants, so not native plants to our community. And so there were no insects. She noticed the first time she was doing this, like, how come there's no insects in this garden? That's kind of weird. And we were really thinking about caring for creation, and during the feast of Saint Francis, we all started calling Brother Bee and Sister Flower. And so she said, "Where's Brother Bee in this garden?" And so she's been planting pollinators and working to restore that. We're going to be planting a whole bunch more just in a couple of weeks. And we're really excited about that. And the whole space got transformed into a place that was really meant to be for the community. So, and we've got a picture from worship, I believe, of Bill, one of our new members, worshiping. So we actually had worship out there last fall during the pandemic. And Bill, one of our new members, and he's got his I love photosynthesis shirt. He's a Whole Foods vegan. He's out giving God praise and worship in this courtyard that's being restored and finding God there, which is really exciting. And again, a new member that's really connected with our ministry of care for creation. He just joined our church about 15 months ago and is really connected with this work. We had worship out there. This garden was turned into a place of prayer for the whole community. And not only was it turned into a place of prayer, but it also was a place where our Kenosha County Health Department gave out vaccines. And I think I have a picture of Sister Holly being vaccinated in our prayer garden. So here's Sister Holly and Sister Nancy encouraging her to get vaccinated. And so this beautiful reclaimed area being a place of wholeness and shalom and healing. So just a beautiful, again, full circle, a space that had been underutilized for God's purpose and work, being reclaimed for not only the bees and the birds, but being reclaimed for mission. And again, just a beautiful story of transformation. And we're excited to see how that's going to continue to unfold in the years ahead. And then the last story I'll share is this past year we did a book study on a book called Climate Church, Climate World. We'll do kind of a little promo for this by Reverend Jim Antal. He's a UCC pastor, and actually not only pastor, but he was a conference president, which is kind of like the equivalent of our bishop in the UCC polity. And he wrote this beautiful book, and it's a book that's meant for study groups, small groups. It's got questions at the end, which is really nice to direct people's reading and also the conversation. And we did this in one of our new members' backyards this past summer with birds and bees buzzing around. And it was really a beautiful experience, not just getting to read about care for creation in this just beautiful yard that had been reclaimed, but also how many new folks came. And we had, last year, we actually had 6 new members come through our care for creation work. And actually, since I even started planning this about a month ago with Pastor Matt, we've actually had 2 new people show up because of our care for creation focus at Grace, which is really exciting. And one of these new families actually is a youth, and we had a youth participate in the book study group. And so I've got a picture of our youth, Gracie Underwood. She actually was so excited about this, she presented about it in a interfaith gathering with what we call Kush. It's like Micah in Milwaukee. It's our interfaith group. And she actually did such a good job. She got our interfaith group excited about having a solar panel task force. And so really cool to see the youth of our church getting engaged and excited, boldly doing public speaking and continuing this work. So we're really excited about the way that doing this book study about Climate Church, Climate World opened up doors for new people to get involved, opened up doors for youth to get involved. And it was just a really exciting opportunity of connecting not only our internal community, but also people externally to our church as well. So those are 3 areas. We actually do a whole bunch of other stuff around Care for Creation too, but I thought those really captured this web of relationships and reconciliation happening and God's kingdom bursting forth in not just 1 or 2 ways, but in this kind of beautiful network of God's kingdom bursting forth, kind of like a garden in spring.
It's overwhelmingly wonderful. So I'm going to try to have you maybe just think of 1 or 2 challenges that you had to face, and not in each ministry either, but maybe overall, like 1 or 2 challenges that you and your congregation faced while, growing this wonderful ministry programs, and also just simply mission. But I'll let you speak more.
Well, yeah, thank you. And great question. So I think the biggest change I want to lift, or the biggest challenge, was just the C word, change. It took many years of prayer and faithfulness around, especially transforming our building and ground space. That was is I imagine many of you can relate to and imagine, not an easy transition. It took a lot of years of just patience. We didn't impose it on our congregation. We kind of let it happen naturally when some people were ready to transition away from the garden care. But that was definitely took a big step of faith to jump into that. And then, I would say too, having conversations around caring for creation, around a book study, that also was a years-long project to get our congregation to a place where we could have that type of study. And I'm not exactly sure how I could have gotten there without some rather extreme methods. So as was said at the beginning of our conversation, I've gone on several long fasts for our climate. And I don't even think after one 12-day fast, my congregation would have been ready for that. In fact, I actually had the press conference for that event at a Methodist church because my congregation wasn't ready to host that yet in terms of conversations. But as we kind of gently primed the pump on it, eventually it was one of those things where the Holy Spirit kind of just worked on us as a congregation month after month, year after year, and got to a place where we could really celebrate a book study like that and really embrace not only the book study, but also the folks that have come because of it. And as some of you might relate to, I once heard a pastor say, new members sound great until they actually show up, and then they're the scariest people on the block, because they might have new ideas and new ways of thinking. And fortunately, because we did a lot of pre-work, when new members started showing up who were excited about Care for Creation, our congregation's been able to really embrace our new folks.
Wow. So how long have you been at your call at Grace?
Almost 6 years.
Okay. It's good to hear that this didn't happen overnight. It's good to hear that change was involved, but it took time. And I even wrote down that your book study was a year-long project, and that's good for us in the church to know. Which kind of leads me to my next question, if that's okay, Pastor Jonathan. So thinking about all of this, what do you think God is nudging us, the church, and I say it with a capital C, the church, to consider at this moment in time?
This is a moment where I pray daily that the Christian community will take a big role in Care for Creation. It's a scary time. The IPCC, which is the body of international scientists, just released a report where they said it's now or never. And scientists tend to not be hyperbolic. And so this is a really scary, urgent moment of caring for our creation, caring for our common home. And so I think there's a tremendous call. And I don't only think there's a tremendous call, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity. And I always think as pastors in church, we should do the right thing just to do the right thing. Certainly. We want to care for creation because this is God's creation. We want to care for it because it sustains our neighbors. But there is also a way in which, as was mentioned through this presentation, by doing this, there's a lot of new, beautiful relationships that happen. And I really think there is a generation of people and a lot of people that are waiting for the church to step into this space. And, we've been very blessed to get to meet them and have them join our church. And I have a strong suspicion that if other congregations will, again, slowly do this work and make some of these changes, I think there's a big opportunity to make a lot of new relationships that are really life-giving and positive, transformative, and we have a chance to be really doing the work of the church. And I think of something actually somebody posted on Twitter, on my Twitter page, and I hate to admit that I've got like a Twitter page and to become that type of pastor, because it kind of seems maybe too trendy for my own personality. But I had somebody say basically, when are our congregations going to really take this very dire situation seriously? And I think there's a really, I think the people are watching us, waiting to see what we're going to do. And I think if we can be full of love for creation, love for our neighbor, that tends to be what our neighbors are excited about and what our neighbors want to see us be about.
Oh, wonderful. And you've been so concise that actually I have two questions left before our time here ends and we go into some breakouts. And the first one, I'm really curious, what are you reading right now?
Ooh, what am I reading right now? That is a great question. I feel like I read a lot of books on tape. And so what is my most recent book on tape? I've been actually reading a book called This Is Your Brain on Food. So I've been a whole foods plant-based vegan for about a little more than a decade. And so I've been very intrigued by that. I actually ended up losing 75 pounds in the last about year, eating a whole foods, plant-based, sugar, oil, salt-free diet. So I read that. And then actually I've been reading a biography about Gandhi.
Oh, wow.
And he's very famous for actually fasting. He went on numerous 21-day fasts. I actually didn't want to go on a 22-day fast. It was like a timing sequence that made it so it was one extra day. I didn't want to do a day longer than Gandhi, but he really inspires me. And he was, one thing I really admire is he carried the Sermon on the Mount into prison with him numerous times. And so even though he wasn't Christian, he was inspired by the teachings of Jesus around the Sermon on the Mount, which are, as some of you might know, a deeply ethical part of our faith heritage and about how we're supposed to live in community with one another.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate that. And then my last question for you is, in one sentence, and I know this will be hard, but in one sentence, why does Jesus matter to you?
So I'm going to quote my life verse, which is Psalm 34:18, and Jesus is near the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's actually a question we ask all of our presenters. So thank you for answering that. I just would like to thank you for joining us this evening and for sharing with us these three areas of mission and ministry. A video of this conversation will be available at our Synod website, milwaukeesynod.org/curious. And we are now going to have these regular conversations every month on the fourth Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. We hope that you all can join us.